Everyone keeps asking the same question about Taiwan. Will China invade? When will China invade? But this is the wrong question, because Beijing has already moved past it. While the world debates the day of the invasion, China's scholars have been quietly wargaming the day after. How do you run 23 million people who don't want to be run by you? How do you occupy democracy and make the occupation look legal? And the answer they've landed on is not tanks, it's not propaganda. It's something far more patient, far more total, and honestly, far more frightening. It's a legal machine, built to do one thing: erase who you are and convince the world it was justice. Let me show you what unification actually means, because it's already being written down. If you care about how authoritarian states dress up conquest as law, you're in the right place. Subscribe, because we go places most channels won't. Today, let's talk about the blueprint for governing Taiwan after annexation, drawn not from my imagination, but from Beijing's own academic literature. And once you've seen the pattern, you won't be able to unsee it. From slogans to statutes. For years, China's messaging on Taiwan lived at the level of nationalist noise. Reunification of the motherland, national rejuvenation. Taiwan has been a part of China since ancient times. Oh yes, and of course, post-Taiwan independence secessionism. You've heard it 1,000 times. It sounds aggressive, but it's still just politics, slogans, theater. Here's the part nobody's paying attention to. Beijing is now converting that slogan language into something you can actually enforce. It has taken national rejuvenation off the propaganda banner and turning it into a legal structure, into statutes, into eligibility tests, into criminal categories. And this is precisely the shift that should keep you up at night, because a slogan can be ignored. A law cannot. This is where the Lowy Institute report comes in. After annexation, how China plans to run Taiwan, by Richard McGregor and Jude Blanchett. And it's one of the most important documents you'll read this year. Because it doesn't ask the question everyone is tired of: will China attack? It asks, after the missiles stop, what then? How does Beijing actually take over? The report's own conclusion is brutal. Based on Chinese scholarship from 2019 to 2025, Xi Jinping has hardened the terms. One country, two systems is quietly considered dead, even inside China. The new model is full absorption. And the report estimates that the plan could see millions of Taiwanese shut out of public life and tens of thousands jailed, unless they renounce an autonomous Taiwan and swear loyalty to the party as Chinese patriots. Sit with that number, tens of thousands. That's a logistics estimate. They're planning to do that. Now here is where I want to push the analysis even further than the report does. Look at what China's scholars are actually studying. It's not one occupation model, it's a parts bin. It's a Frankenstein assembly of legal weapons stripped from completely unrelated countries. They study the United States ban on insurrection, a clause born from the Civil War, meant to protect a democracy. But Beijing doesn't see the democracy, it sees a tool. How a state can constitutionally bar a rebel faction from ever holding power again. They study Spain and Catalonia, a fight that happened inside an EU democracy with constitutional courts and competitive elections. Beijing ignores all of that. It sees only how a central government legally vetoes a region's path to independence. They study Tanzania and Zanzibar, a union born from African decolonization. Beijing's interest here is how you keep two systems on paper while the core of sovereignty stays locked in the center. They study Hong Kong and the 2020 national security law that rebuilt the city's entire political order in a matter of months. Proof that if your legal design is hard enough, a vibrant civil society can be dismantled almost overnight. They even study Scotland's failed independence referendum, how a vote to leave can be managed into a loss. Now, every one of these belongs to a totally different history, a different rule of law tradition. In a free society, you'd never put them in the same sentence. And not one of them describes a regime that has never governed the territory it's claiming, which is exactly China's situation with Taiwan. But that's the point. Beijing rips each case out of context. It is not studying the spirit of the law, it is mining for control techniques. It won't copy a country whole, because a whole copy would carry that country's limits. It just pulls the parts that serve the regime and bolts them into the party state. And what you get at the end is custom-built anti-secession occupation law tailored for Taiwan, a system whose entire purpose is to make occupation not look like occupation, to make a political purge look like defending constitutional order, to make the destruction of democracy look like lawful governance. That's the dangerous evolution here. Beijing no longer wants raw violence. Violence is expensive, it triggers sanctions, it triggers headlines. It wants a system that absorbs the violence into legal language. Right repression as anti-secession, right censorship as national security, right thought reform as ethnic unity. And suddenly you don't need soldiers patrolling every street. The law itself becomes the gun. The denazification trick. So why has Beijing started borrowing Russia's favorite word, denazification? Don't dismiss it as a slur. It's a legal device. Watch what Russia did invading Ukraine. Call your enemy Nazis and the war stops being aggression, it becomes cleansing evil. Brand the enemy state as fascist and destroying its schools, its media, its army, its government becomes historical justice. Say the whole society is infected and now your targets aren't just soldiers, they're teachers, local officials, journalists, civil servants, anyone. All of that folded neatly under denazification. China understands exactly what that word does. When Beijing aims denazification at Taiwan, it's not claiming Taiwan literally has Nazis. It's borrowing the moral legitimacy of post-war Germany to package a takeover that cleanses Taiwan's politics, courts, schools, media, and civil society. And here is the obscene inversion. In real post-war Germany, denazification meant the Allies removing totalitarianism, purging party members, banning the symbol, rebuilding democracy. When Beijing transplants that idea onto Taiwan, the logic flips inside out. The thing being purged isn't totalitarianism, it's democracy. Taiwanese self-identity, local history, education, anti-communist memory, pro-American, pro-Japanese foreign policy, all of it gets renamed as Nazism, fascism, secessionism. And then, well, since these things are Nazi, after unification we're obligated to remove them by extraordinary means. It's the oldest trick in the authoritarian book. First, you slander a free society's identity as a disease, then you announce the state has duty to cure it. 5 mechanisms. So what does the cure actually look like on the ground? 5 mechanisms. This is the machine. 1. Political vetting. After unification, who gets to be an official? A teacher? A judge? A journalist? An NGO head? A party officer? Only those who pass a loyalty test. Do you support unification? Do you reject Taiwan independence? Do you accept one China? It's denazification. Remove the party's members. Retool to remove Taiwan's entire local political elite. 2. Criminalization. Beijing already brands Taiwan independence as a secessionist crime. Bolt on the denazification frame, and tomorrow you can label politicians, scholars, journalists, activists, and military officers as splitter forces, political toxins, fascist elements, and use that to justify arrests, show trials, lifetime bans from office, and asset seizures. 3. Rewriting memory. This is the core. Beijing recast decades of Taiwan's localization, democratization, transnational justice, and Taiwan history education as de-Sinification, splittist education, even Nazification. And what is the cure according to the CCP? It's re-education, rewritten curricula, textbook censorship, purged teachers, campus surveillance. 4. Reorganizing speech. If Taiwan is a Nazified country, then after unification, pulling shows off air, shutting down political talk programs, auditing YouTubers and influencers, prosecuting all posts, all of it gets repackaged as removing hate propaganda and preventing the revival of Nazi thought. We already saw the dry run Hong Kong after 2020, where NSL gutted media, civic groups, and electoral eligibility in record time. 5. Rebuilding civil society and parties. They call it Taiwanese governing Taiwan. It isn't. It's Beijing deciding which parties may exist, which foundations may operate, which NGOs are patriotic enough to survive, which channels are allowed to speak. And here is the trap that makes Taiwan uniquely vulnerable. Taiwan is one of the most digitized societies on Earth. Your voting records, your social media, your political donations, your academic papers, your travel history, every one of those becomes raw material for a loyalty audit, justified under China's existing data security, counter-espionage, national security, anti-secession, and ethnic unity laws. Public participation that was completely legal in democracy gets reread retroactively as infiltration, collusion with foreign forces, endangering the state, and people will start to fear their own past. That past from 10 years ago, that interview from 5 years ago, that donation from 3. The genuine horror of this system is that it turns every digital trace into evidence and pushes an entire society into mutual suspicion. And if you think this is hypothetical, Beijing already took the first concrete step. On March 12th, 2026, China passed the law on promoting ethnic unity and progress. The significance isn't just that it talks about ethnic unity, it's that it takes the community of the Chinese nation, a propaganda slogan, and converts it into legal obligation. When the state legally requires you to promote a particular identity, political neutrality becomes almost impossible. You don't have to openly oppose China to break this law. Just refusing to declare loyalty, refusing to participate, refusing to use the identity the party assigns you, that's enough. Beijing loves to reassure Taiwanese with high degree of autonomy, like they did with Hong Kong. It's only the few separatists, they say. Most of you have nothing to fear. But once ethnic unity is a legal duty, it stops being about a few politicians. It reaches into every school, every newsroom, every local government, every cultural institution, all required to cooperate with the Chinese national community. Taiwan's democratic memory, Taiwanese and Hakka culture, indigenous history, the 228 massacre, the White Terror, the Sunflower Movement, all of it goes under review. And you don't get to stay silent. You have to actively perform compliance, like in North Korea. Every North Korean must smile when Kim Jong-un appears, right? Even the right to say nothing gets stripped away. Now here's the part that should make your blood boil. The features that actually resemble Nazism: one-party rule, personality cult, military expansion, mass nationalist mobilization, concentration camps, state-controlled media, dehumanizing your opponents. Those don't describe Taiwan's democracy, they describe the Chinese Communist Party. Beijing just swaps the label. Denazification becomes de-Taiwan independence, decolonization, removing foreign forces. Or the gentle version, promoting ethnic unity, building the Chinese national community, different words, same structure. First, you smear a democracy's identity, then you claim a duty to heal it. And please notice, Beijing will never say it's destroying Taiwan's democracy. It will say it's restoring Taiwanese identity. It won't erase Taiwan's culture outright either. The more likely future is a sanitized Taiwan. The night market food stays, the local color stays, the tourist village indigenous culture stays, but every politically sensitive part is surgically removed. Taiwan's culture can be displayed, it just can't be the basis of a national identity. Taiwan's history can be mentioned, it just can't lead towards sovereignty. And it can absolutely never be used to question the party. All of it is repurposed into a showcase, a unified, prosperous Chinese nation. Here's where I leave you. Beijing will not handle Taiwan with administrative takeover and military occupation alone. It is building a legal system that looks modern, looks sourced, looks like it learned from international experience. Constitution, national security, ethnic unity, anti-secession, public order, re-education, a complete encirclement designed to do one thing: strip Taiwan of the ability to even say the word resistance out loud. People will still work, still ride the metro, still buy coffee, but the only question that matters in any free society, who are we, will already have been answered for you by the party state. So the thing Taiwan must fear is not only the day the missiles fly, it is the legal environment Beijing has spent decades quietly preparing for the occupation. There's a line I keep coming back to: before the war arrives, the words arrive first. That is exactly why Taiwan has to treat lawfare as a national defense issue. Because China's war on Taiwan isn't only physical, out in the Taiwan Strait. It's a war of swapped definitions, borrowed frameworks, stolen precedents, a war over the meaning of the word legitimate. What Beijing truly wants to engineer is a world where Taiwan's sovereignty is erased, and the world still applauds it as national rejuvenation. Don't let the word arrive unanswered. If this mattered to you, hit subscribe, share it with one person who still thinks this is just about missiles, and I'll see you at the next one. And remember, freedom is not free, and neither is the truth.